What is going down, everybody? Welcome to a very special Am I Still on the Air? You know what it is. This is the special forum where we come together and we talk about one very specific topic. And I teased it on this week's episode of Am I on the Air? You know, I put up a new episode a couple days ago talking about the new Joker movie. And my new episode was Send in the Clowns. And on that episode, if you checked it out already, I said there's a possibility that there might be a little spoiler review on the horizon. And surprise, here it is. It's time to talk Joker in all of its spoiler-filled glory. So this is the Am I Still in the Air Joker spoiler review. And as always, I always love to have guests on my spoiler reviews. And if you've listened to these Am I Still in the Airs before, you're no surprise to these gentlemen right here. I got my boys Peeps and Frigginz joining me once again. So what up, y'all?
Thank you so much for having us, Don.
It is such a pleasure to be here. Heck yeah. Stoked.
What up, everybody?
What up, what up? Welcome back, gentlemen. Glad to have you guys back on.
Good
putting
to be
this
back.
together, you know, it's never easy sometimes with multiple people trying to align schedules and time zones and everything else that's going on in the world. But we made it happen for y'all. And this is a very interesting movie to do a spoiler review on. Frigginz, before we started recording, was bringing up the point that, usually we do these reviews, it's for Avengers and all these other big action movies, and we're always talking about, man, this scene was so badass, and when Thanos fucking did this, and blah, blah, blah. There's always these cool big moments to talk about. This really isn't that type of movie, and this is more of a, spoiler review to just kind of dig into what a unique film this is, and kind of just what we each kind of took away from it, because I feel like we each kind of came off with a different area of, liking it and our appreciation for it, but still different views in the end of it. And so it's going to be definitely a very interesting kind of spoiler review to kind of dig into. So last warning, once again, this is a spoiler review. If you want to hear the non-spoiler, you need to go check out the Am I on the Air episode from this week. Like I said, check out the episode Send in the Clowns, and you'll hear the spoiler-free review. But this is spoiler. We're digging in. Nothing's being held back. I'm just going to start off with the fact that when I first reported this news, about a year ago, and I started hearing the rumblings about the director of The Hangover, Todd Phillips, was going to direct a Joker solo movie that takes place in kind of an Elseworld. It's not associated with the DCEU. It's going to probably be in the 80s, and it's got Joaquin Phoenix in talks. I was like, this fucking sounds stupid. I want nothing to do with this. What the F? I'm the biggest DC fan movie-wise out of the bunch here, and I like the DCEU. I want to see it progress. I don't want to see it go backwards. I don't want to start seeing spin-offs. It starts confusing people, and I'm telling you, there are confused people here when it comes to this movie. So I'm going to state for the record once again that this movie is separate from the DCEU. It is separate, at least as it stands right now. Based on how much money this thing's making, we might see a shift, and all of a sudden this fucker pops up in the Robert Pattinson Batman.
He's been there the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He's like, I've been waiting for you, Bruce, since you were 12. Who knows what can end up happening with this. But when this movie was put together, the concept of it was to be a one-and-done spin-off kind of movie, an Elseworld type thing, that DC was going to start making these movies almost under a different banner, which they didn't really do. They didn't at least announce a banner for this one, but kind of like like Marvel Knights, or something like that, where it's like Warner Brothers something, to where okay, this isn't part of our kind of continuing storyline with Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Shazam and all them, but this is something different. And this isn't, that, because I know that there's a lot of hate, obviously, on the Jared Leto Joker from Suicide Squad, and a lot of people being like, oh, I'm glad he got replaced and this or that. Or there's also the flip side of it where people saying, man, that's messed up, how they're going to replace Jared Leto like this and that. This is not the same Joker. This is what I'm trying to get stretch the point across, that this is not the same Joker. This is an Elseworld kind of situation. They are not the same character. Jared Leto could very well pop up in the Birds of Prey movie in a couple months. He could pop up in the Suicide Squad sequel that James Gunn is making right now. We will see him again. I have pretty good faith that we will see Jared Leto pop up again as Joker. This is something different. This is a different take on it. Obviously, like I said, takes place in the 80s. Bruce Wayne is only like 12 years old in this movie. You know, he deals with Thomas Wayne a lot more in this film. You know, so this is not your typical kind of Batman Gotham kind of movie. So I want to make sure you guys understand that if there's any confusion still out there, wondering about the differences between the timelines and just everything that's going on there. So when this news was all being put together, they fast-tracked the hell out of this movie. It was like a rumor, and then like a month later, they're like, it's a done deal, and like a month later, they were shooting this thing. So it was crazy, and they shot it fast because they just started shooting this thing early 2018, and here it is already out. Usually it takes a lot longer to put these movies together, but this isn't a big CGI movie. This is something that they could film in a couple months and knock it out. And that's exactly what they did here. And like I said, man, I just was not a fan of it. It sounded dumb. And I'll tell you, I'm not a big fan of Joaquin Phoenix. I just never really have been. I appreciated some of his earlier work, and then just lately he just seems so off the reservation, and he's just always doing all these indie films I just could not care less about.
I thought you really liked Her.
I hated Her.
I know you did.
I hated that movie so much, and all its damn critical acclaim that it never should have gotten.
So good.
What a shitty movie. Okay, but let's not digress to that. But yes, you know, I just, needless to say, I was not happy that Joaquin Phoenix was the guy that they went and got to do Joker. Then the first trailer came out, and I was like, all right, it looks pretty good, but it's still not a Joker movie to me. This is something totally different, you know, whatever. And then the second trailer came out, and I'm like, still looking good. I'm sure it's going to be a great movie. I was like, I'm sure he'll get nominated for an Oscar. Like, I already saw these things in my head months ago, but still never gave super high credence to it. Never had a big desire to see it when it came out. But, of course, you know, check out the new movies when they come out. So last week in IMAX, checked it out opening night, and the movie blew me away. And sometimes it's crazy, man. We have such a different, opinion going into things. I don't think any of us thought this movie was a good idea when we first heard about it. And it's crazy to see what we came out of it with. I'm
definitely right there with you.
I was blown away.
I was not excited. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I was just so blown away from the performance of Joaquin Phoenix, from seeing his journey from just, Arthur Fleck to becoming Joker. This is the biggest anti-bullying movie you could have ever asked for, because it just goes to show you, man, you bully some people, and there's gonna be some hell to pay. And you see that journey from just this fragile little dude that's just minding his own business, and just he's a little weird in his own head, but the more and more people picked on him, he became this demented ass serial killer. And it's crazy to see that transition. The movie was shot beautifully. It looks beautiful. Todd Phillips did an amazing job. Everybody in the movie just killed it and knocked it out the park. And I walked away just being like, damn, like this was a movie that I was only so looking forward to. I didn't think was that great of an idea, and came out of it just totally mind blown. So as we start kind of this discussion, I'll kind of go around to you guys, and let's just start there with, like, go back to your thoughts when this news was announced, your general impressions, and then obviously seeing the movie and walking out of the theater this past week. So Frigginz, go for it, man.
Yeah, I was just trying to say, like, I was right there with you. When they first announced they're going to be a Joker movie, I was pretty livid, to be honest with you, because I think Joker personally works better when you don't know what his background is. That was one of the most brilliant things of the Dark Knight version Joker, is when, he tells the story. And I remember the first time he tells the story of his background, I was like, oh, why did they do that? And then the second time he tells a totally different story of his background, I was like, okay, that's what's up. That's the best Joker right there, is when you don't know what is real and how his background changed him and molded him to become to the person that he is today. So when I heard that they were going to just do a solo Joker movie, that was the first thing that came to mind for me, was why do we need to have his background story explained? I don't know. I just personally feel he's more interesting when we don't know. And then on top of that, I also wasn't thrilled about it being another person being Joker in a different time frame, because just like you, Don, like, I like the connectivity of things, and they just really were pushing how they went. So they went out and got Jared Leto to be the Joker. Like, he was supposed to be the new big thing, and sure, they did him a little different, and not everybody liked the way his style was, but I wanted to see more of where they were going to go with that, because I'd rather see like all the DC Universe stuff get connected. With all that being said, when I heard it was in the 80s, I kind of like loosened up a little bit, because I thought to myself, okay, at least this is going to be more of a period piece, and talking about like a certain portion of our history, and then throwing in Joker into this. But I had no idea what they were going to do or how they were going to pull it off, and I definitely didn't expect what we got. So right there with you, man, just super not looking forward to it. First trailer comes out. I actually was kind of surprised. I thought, wow, okay, that actually looks a lot more interesting than I had originally expected. And I was really shocked by the departure of the over-the-top cinematic, action-y kind of vibe that I was pretty much expecting, and instead seeing this down-to-earth, reality-based scenario. And even after the trailer, I didn't realize how much they were going to focus on the reality aspect and some of the issues that we have in our society, especially now. And I mean, it was just quite a shock to go in there. And as we, dissect this film a little bit more, we'll talk into what was shocking and what, really surprised me and what really stood out. But
the whole movie.
Yeah, that's the best answer right there. But it was just not thrilling for me. I had almost no excitement for it. It wasn't until like right before we did the episode where we talked about our most anticipated movies, where I finally started getting a little bit of excitement for it, and I ended up throwing it up on my anticipated list. So it just was because more of the talk about how well Joaquin was doing, and that this might be Oscar worthy and stuff like that. So it was more of an interest of, okay, what is happening here? Like, is this going to be crashing and burning, or is this going to be amazing? And I kind of really was more interested in seeing how the overall thing turned out, as opposed to interested in seeing the movie, if that makes any kind of sense. But that's kind of where I started. That's how I kind of came into it. Before I walked into the theater. So, Peeps?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for calling on me, Frigginz. Well, again, I, pretty much mirror what you say, Frigginz. I don't want to, just kind of repeat everything you said. But yes, I do agree that when they first announced it, this isn't something I've asked for. This isn't something I've ever needed. And one of the most intriguing things about this character, as Don stated, is the fact that we don't necessarily know why he is the reason why he is. He is just chaos in the flesh. Don't want to get into it too much, but they've even gone so far in the comments or in the comics to make Joker so much of a deity that has been alive for eons and has just existed specifically to create chaos, kind of thing. So it's when they said that they're going to come out with a movie, I'm just like, why do we need an explanation for this character? And we don't. And like, as I stated, the one thing that makes this guy interesting, they're taking it away by giving him a backstory. So I wasn't excited for it from get-go. DX, you announced multiple times how this isn't connected to anything. So again, why am I looking forward to this movie? I'm not. And then we see picture or images of it. Again, it looks like Frigginz, I disagree. I think when they started showing us images and trailers, it looked very grounded. He looked like just a dude that painted his face. So the one thing that I could hope for is for this to be a flashy, comic booky, Scott Pilgrim kind of movie. They took that away. So I literally had
Hopefully it's not that.
Yep.
No.
Yep. So I literally had I wasn't excited for this. I don't even think I would have seen it if it wasn't for you, Frigginz. You were very excited about this after you had seen it on the Thursday prior, and to the point where you're like, dude, I need to talk about this movie. And for you to be that excited about it, it intrigued me. And I also didn't even really know that it was going to be rated R. And if it was rated R, I mean, what's rated R nowadays? Like, RoboCop is rated R. Some of the other movies that they have nowadays, I mean, not so much rated R. So it's a wide range in terms of the rating system. So yada yada yada. I wasn't really looking forward to it, especially because it was grounded and it was a story I felt that I didn't need and I didn't want. But as we will get into it, I am very happy that I had seen it, and I am excited to talk more about it and to get into the nitty gritty of it all.
Well, I'm super excited to hear that one of my Instagram stories talking about the movie helped to get at least one person in the theater. So if you want to see, I do post little mini reviews on Instagram every time I see a new release or something. So that's at Frigginz.
They're ridiculous. He needs
I'm
to
working
just
on it,
use
though.
Stardust. Stardust,
That's
holla holla.
Frigginz with a Z, everybody.
Frigginz with a Z. At Frigginz with a Z.
Yeah, make sure you hold down the screen so you can read it all, because it'll flash forward through it real fast, and you'll be like, why the fuck did he write all this shit? And it's fucking just flipping through it every fucking 2 seconds, and I gotta go back and try to reread it.
I will point out that the Joker, there was so much to say about this, and there were so many points I wanted to make, and I didn't even go into spoilers. This is just general information. I actually did a 4-part post because I just had so much to say, and I was like, this can't be done in just one little thing.
You did, and I was like, you could have summarized this in a Stardust video, and it would have been a lot easier.
It's true.
He's trying to stamp all these little cute fucking messages across the fucking picture. I'm like, come on, man. You probably spent 20 minutes trying to put all that together.
That's
and
true.
You could have just made a
that's-
30-second video.
You're not wrong.
So ridiculous. Stardust, everybody, Stardust. And Frigginz is on there. He just doesn't use it for whatever reason.
It's been a long time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work something out.
Also, if everybody can please like and subscribe to my channel as well. I'm just kidding.
Got to get our plugs in where we
Peeps
can.
is on Stardust also, but you wouldn't know
That's
that either.
true.
He needs to put his Cyclops visor back on and start doing some reviews.
Do I have it on right now? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about for Stardust, man. We need the video proof.
Okay, hear it. I am sorry, guys. Where were we?
know what he's talking about. All right.
Don, go ahead.
Yes. So Joker, yes. So this movie comes out and it's crazy. Like, was there a shit ton of security at your guys' screening?
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Is like just getting to the theater in itself was a crazy experience. To include a shit ton of experience. I mean, a shit ton of cops. Yes, security.
You want to just try that again?
Yeah, I'll try that again. So just leading up to getting to the theater was a crazy experience to include a shitload of security.
I actually didn't have that for me. I was there at the Saturday, so at that point I think they didn't care about me that much.
Well, it was the weirdest thing because like before I went to I was at work telling people, I'm going to a Thursday night show. I'm going to go see the new Joker movie. And it was the strangest experience because everyone I told that to, they were like, you need to be careful when you go.
Yes, I got the same thing, dude. Be safe. I'm like, what? I'm like, is there a bunch of serial killers out watching Joker right now?
They were telling me to wear like a bulletproof vest and stuff like that. And check this out. I don't know if you noticed, but like the DOJ, which is Department of Justice, they sent out an actual warning to the public to be cautious and aware of your surroundings when you go to this film, to look for the exits, to find, how to get out, to look for security, talk to security, and talk to them about any suspicious behavior. This is the first time I've ever seen that happen, where the DOJ is sending an actual notice to the public as a warning just to go see a movie. Like, that experience was the strangest thing. And then, like, going to the movie, I happened to run into an individual that I knew that is like a big comic book fan and everything, and he goes and sees all the movies and the Thursday night releases or whatever. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, dude, are you going to go see this movie right now? And he's like, oh, hell no, I'm staying away from there. He's like, I'm going to wait till this calms down. I mean, so I'm here in the theater just looking around, like, scared off my mind, like, who the hell's going to jump up? Like, and I'm partially joking, but it really was a true experience that I don't ever want to go through again. But at the same time, it was just something to really, like, sit down and think about because of the state of our society and the things we have to worry about nowadays. It's freaking scary. And it's terrifying that, like, there's a fear that somebody could be persuaded by this movie to, take action onto the horrible thoughts of, harming people that they may have or something to that nature. And I think that was just such a huge fear that was out there that it really added to, this strange experience of going to the movies. I even had a friend that was at a theater. He saw it on Saturday, and he sends me a text, and he's like, dude, there's this dude in, like, a heavy jacket with a hoodie up, and he's got something covering his face. He's like, do you think I should say something? And I was like, hell yes. Like, that's exactly what you should be looking out for. It turned out
I would ask him how he liked the movie.
I don't know. It was just Bane. He just wanted to see how it turned out.
He's like, you're gonna pick this.
You said you think this gives you power over me?
But no, and the dude did end up going and asking, like, seeing what's up with the dude, and I guess he had, like, a cold, and he was just trying to cover up.
Everybody that worked at the theater was like, fuck that shit, I ain't talking to that guy.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna avoid that dude. But I mean, again, we're partially joking, but it truly was kind of frightening, and there's something to be said about that. You had a different experience. You didn't have cops everywhere.
I suppose. I mean, when you see the armed forces there, of course you're going to just be, on alert. But I don't see. I feel like anybody who will allow a movie to influence them to become a serial killer was going to do it anyways, regardless if the movie came out or not. I mean, they just needed an excuse, and whether it feels, I don't know. I know we're probably going left into psychology, but I don't know. I think it's silly, I guess, how the last time this really happened in a movie theater, it was due to a Batman movie. So now we have another Batman movie that's even darker. Well,
I think that's what prompted a lot of this, was because it was The Dark Knight Rises. So,
right.
I think that's why they were like, oh my God, and this movie's so violent, and it's rated R, and it's about a villain, and so they just lost their minds about it. It was very, very crazy to see. I mean, there was cops at every entrance. There was cops at the entrance to the theater that the movie was showing in. It was, I just never really saw anything like it for a movie before. And yeah, I feel the same way Frigginz did. It was crazy. Like, everybody that was like, are you gonna go see it tonight? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh my God, be careful. Like, like watch out, and all this stuff. And like, yeah, or you're crazy. Like, wait a couple weeks to see it and all this stuff. I'm like, what? Like why is everybody so fucking scared to go watch this movie? It's not like something happened and then there was this release that came out that was like, if you go see this movie opening weekend, you're gonna fucking die. Like, and then we're risking it. It's like nothing really happened to spark all of this except for just being paranoid. And it was crazy to see how much they were, because from my understanding, that opening night, it was like that across the entire United States. So, just craziness.
For sure.
Craziness.
But the dark side,
if you gotta go with a smile.
With a smile. And, the dark creepiness of it is really, it gets carried on throughout the film. So I could definitely see how someone, as Peeps, as you were saying, like, if they already have those feelings, like, I can see that maybe this gives them an excuse. And that's the problem, is that stuff like this can give people excuses. And maybe that's what the point of the movie was, and showing what a person can go through and what can lead them essentially to act on these bad thoughts that they've been having, instead of trying to fix them and can help and things to that nature. So I think they're just afraid that, there's people out there who are like this character and, might go that direction. So I won't forget it. I'll tell you that. It was a crazy, crazy, crazy experience.
Yes. So I don't even know where to really even begin with this thing other than just kind of taking you through a snapshot journey of the movie and then kind of going around and just talking about what kind of stuck with you. But, like I said, this movie is about Arthur Fleck, who is, just the movie starts off, he's just, he is a clown and he's, flipping signs for this company, and the sign gets taken from him by these punk kids and he chases them down. They end up beating him up over it. And you just start to see this journey right from the minute the movie starts of him, his back always kind of being against the wall, getting money deducted out of his check for losing the sign, people not trusting him, not believing him. He has this nervous tick laugh, which I thought was very interesting to kind of go along with the Joker thing, that he was always, every time he got nervous, he was just like, and then I like that he had that little card that he passed out on the train that said, like, I'm not laughing at you, this is a disease, I have a problem. And I thought that was really cool to kind of explain it, because that first scene when it shows him with, like, the therapist or whatever, and he's just laughing for, like, 5 minutes, I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like, why is he laughing so much? And then as they kind of start to, like, explain, like, that it's his tick, and he's trying to cough and stretch his throat to kind of stop doing it, it was really interesting. But, man, it was very uncomfortable during the movie every time he did it, because you're like, stop laughing, dude, stop laughing. He's just like...
laughing is supposed to be... And laughing is supposed to be a joy thing, right? And so you're hearing a laugh, but you're seeing him, like, in pain and crying, and it's such a contradiction. You're like, what the fuck is happening?
Right. I mean, especially when you get to, like, the scene, like, on the train, where he kills his first people, right? The three Wall Street guys, and they're messing with the chick, and he just starts laughing, and they're like, what the fuck you laughing at, dude? And, and he's like, I'm not, like, and he's just like, he keeps doing it, and they end up beating him down, and then he pulls out the gun and shoots him. Again, just the fact of the people not really seeing and understanding that he had a problem, and he wasn't trying to pick a fight. He was like, look, I don't mean to do it. I'm just, it's an accident. But once again, just always being backed against the wall, and, him having to try to support his mom and take care of her. And she obviously had her own mental issues, and just nobody understanding him. And then him trying to be a stand-up comic, but he's not very good at it, and people don't like him. And, then he idolizes the Robert De Niro show that's going on, and he gets made fun of there. And you could just see, like I said, man, the bullying that goes on here, that it takes that moment on the train when he shoots those guys to where he finally feels something, right? He feels alive. He feels like, oh my God, like, I shut these people up. And you start to see that shift in him, where he doesn't really show any remorse for it. And he justifies it almost in his head, like, they were wrong, and I took care of them. They were assholes, And then you start to see that spiral, and just, the revelation that Thomas Wayne is his dad, which I hated when that first happened, and it was too. Like, oh, Thomas is your dad, and you're this bastard love child, and I'm like, oh my God, they're making him and Bruce brothers, and this is fucking stupid. So thank God that turned out to be just a lie, and the mom was crazy, and she got, put away at Arkham and stuff like that. She was in the insane asylum, and stuff, and then she adopted, the Joker's character, which was cool, like, so he's not even her biological kid. So that was all a cool concept, him going to the mansion. You got to see Alfred, which was kind of cool, and then seeing the young Bruce Wayne.
Probably the worst Alfred I've ever seen.
Oh, 100%. Alfred would have beat his ass.
Exactly, right? Especially when it just grabbed him through the gate, I'm like, come on, dude, come on, Alfred, you're better than that. You have your own show on TV right now.
I think in that universe, like, ever since that moment, he was like, shit, man, I need to get my shit together. Then he went into the gym and started punching a bag.
Right.
Yeah, that's where he started becoming a badass.
Yeah.
I like it. It's Alfred's origin too.
Yeah.
Oh.
What I liked too was the moments throughout the movie that you couldn't tell were real or if they were in his head. because I remember like when he went to Zazie Beetz' apartment, and started making out with her, and all of a sudden they're hanging out and they're doing all this stuff. Our boy Geeky Pat leaned over to me and he was like, "I bet you this is all in his head." And I was like, "Nah, like I think this is legit." And it turned out to be in his head, and I was like, "You motherfucker!" But it was cool because the way they played it off. I mean, you really didn't know until you see that transition, and it kind of went to like when he was watching the show, the Robert De Niro show, and then he was there in the audience and he got brought down and he hugged him and was like, "You're like a dad to me," and all this stuff, and it was all nice. And then it turns out that it was in his head, So those moments and glimpses were really cool. To where now there's a million rumors out there that are like the whole ending of the movie was in his head, and you just don't.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I hate. Yes, I'm like, don't fuck it
too.
up. Don't try to be like, yeah, it was all a dream, right? He's still in his apartment.
He actually died when he went into the refrigerator.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I actually saw something of that, literally. So
oh my God.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But everybody just turning their back on him, like the guy that gives him the gun that works with him, and then like ends up like turning his back on him, getting him fired, and just when he goes to the children's hospital and drops the gun on the ground, and just the different things that lead to this journey,
Just real quick, at that moment, man, like I am probably one of those guys that annoys a lot of people because I get, oh snap, that's loud and at that moment, I said, "Oh shit!" Like, it was so cringy, It just, I'm like, no, this motherfucker did not. And, oh my gosh! And then he was like trying to kick it and like move it away.
Those shoes are too big, man. You can't control them.
The scene was awkward enough as is, but then that happened. I'm just like, oh my god.
You didn't enjoy all the dancing?
No, I did not.
Lots of dancing.
I prefer the bathroom yoga scene dance. That was
That's pretty creepy too. I would not want that clown to visit me in the hospital. I was just like, oh gosh, this is weird.
Friggin', I'm gonna just go ahead and say I would not want a clown to visit me in the hospital.
Good point. Yeah, just in general.
Ronald is okay, but like no, maybe Pennywise, but no, not that guy.
Yes.
Not Arthur.
So Arthur, he's taking this downward spiral at this point. He gets invited to go on the Robert De Niro show there, and that's when he finally gets all dressed up Joker style that we see in the trailer, where he's finally got his swagger down, right? The hair gets done green, and he's got the paint on, and I love, as he's going down to the studio and he gets on the, the train, and, he's running from the cops first and foremost, and gets on the train, and everybody on the train has masks on, and they all start beating down the cops and everything, so he's able to get away. And I'll tell you what really took the movie over the edge for me was that entire last scene on Robert De Niro's show. I was really enjoying the movie, but that scene for me, that last maybe 10-15 minutes, is what really took the movie to that next level for me, of him getting to the show. He just killed like another dude right before that. The dude that gave him the gun earlier in the movie, he just shanked the hell out of him out of nowhere. And it was craziness. Like everybody in the theater was like, "What the fuck?" Because it just came out of left field so fast. And the little midget dude's all like, "Oh," and he's like, "Nah, man, you're cool. I'm not gonna hurt you."
Yeah.
And then he jumps at him. Ah!
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm just playing. And then I love that he couldn't unlock the door. He was too short.
It was such an intense moment, man. That was freaking scary. I just kept feeling so bad for that little dude.
Dude, so crazy. So he gets there, and then that's when he does the whole like, "Hey, when you bring me out, could you introduce me as Joker?" And everybody that produces the show is like, "Fuck this dude. Why are you letting this guy come on your show?" And they're like, "No, it's cool. It's gonna be good TV." And he comes on, and just that whole interview segment was so good. And then he just comes out and he's just like, "Yeah, like when I killed those 3 people on the train a week ago, and they're like, "Oh, that was you?" "Yep." And he was so just nonchalant about it, and everybody's freaking out, and he just starts talking about how, the little guy getting picked on, and just because he snaps, like he's the bad guy now and everything. And then of course eventually ending up with him just turning and shooting Robert De Niro right in the head, and it was like, holy shit! Like in
Yeah.
my mind, I was like, this is where this scene is going, but are they gonna take it there? And they took it there, and
They
I was
took
just
it there,
like,
man.
Yep.
ballsy. I fucking love it, and he just, everybody's freaking out, and that whole scene, man, from the second he gets introduced and he comes out through the curtain and he's doing his little dance and he grabs fucking the chick and he starts making out with her, and like his swagger in that scene was so good, and just his explanation of what was happening and why he was justified, and then shooting Robert De Niro, and then even afterwards getting up and shooting him again in the chest just for good measure, and then obviously getting arrested, and then getting broken out and becoming this like savior for Gotham, all these people that are being held down, and loved what he said on TV. Crazy, man. That whole ending segment had me on the edge of my seat and just being like, this movie's fucking phenomenal. It just took it up so many notches for me, that entire scene, the way it played out, the way, he wakes up and he sees all the clown people around him, and he jumps up on the cop car and once again starts doing a little jig, and people are like, woo, and then you're just like, it's here, man. It's the birth of the Joker. And I love at that same time we see the Waynes come out the theater and they get shot, and you get the pearls taken, and we get another origin of the Batman. And you're like, they were able to tie this into that origin, which was fantastic. I also thought, because I didn't think they were going to do anything really Batman related, and that was really cool to see that, even though why the fuck would Thomas Wayne be at a theater at a night like that? But,
seriously.
He deserves it a little bit based on the way that shit played out. There's riots all over the city. They're like, let's go to a show.
Let's go to a movie.
He bought the tickets in advance. I mean, you're not just gonna throw the money away.
True. You're gonna take the shot.
I will say though, real quick, a piece that I did love about the movie is, it was very, as I stated before, grounded, and I was kind of hoping for it to be a bit comic booky, but they gave me some random ass super rats that they were talking about randomly.
In the background.
And I don't know if you guys noticed some giant fucking super rats right after Bruce was like holding his dead parents, but there's some giant super rats just running.
Was it really?
In the background.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
And I'm like, yes, I was, sad and whatever, but I was like so happy, and I clapped. I was like, super rats.
You're clapping.
I was just like, Martha.
Martha, why'd you say that name? I was thinking the whole time, Peeps, I was like, what villain has giant rats? I couldn't. I was like,
I know. I'm like, what a weird reference, I'd be like Crocodile Man in the sewer,
Right.
Yeah,
and what were you saying before? I mean, just like that whole ending scene, the whole movie is really building up to that, and it creates, literally, almost in a way, it creates the Batman universe, because now we not only have Joker, Batman's greatest villain, but like all of these people wearing masks in the streets doing shitty things, and once the police get everything calm down and people get arrested, I mean, now we have these people that are used to putting on masks and putting on like a type of costume. So you could even argue, he probably started the whole, masked villainy, outbreak that takes place in Gotham, after that. So I don't know. It's like you're saying, man, it was just that whole end scene was just fucking phenomenal.
And I thought totally that the movie. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to talk about the ending. You had mentioned loving the fact that they looped in the Thomas Wayne situation. I was the exact opposite.
Oh.
I was so frustrated that they looped that in, and I was like, why? Like, I knew it was coming, but I was just hoping they wouldn't go there, because I thought, this is Joker's origin. I was even a little frustrated that there was a connection to the Waynes in the first place. And I was just thinking, it would be so much more impactful, I think, if he's not connected to it. So it's, again, just trying to tie him into the creation of Batman, kind of like, the 89.
I'd see your point more if it was Arthur that actually killed them. But it was like, it was just a random fucking thug that had the clown mask on. You know,
I mean,
which just, you know, and in a night like that where all these riots are happening and everything's going to hell, like, it made total sense to go into that scene, though.
I was glad that it was a Randy dude and not Arthur, but at the same respect, you could argue that since Arthur started the movement, quote unquote, that it was in largely his fault that it happened.
Nope.
Nope. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I was thinking, and I'm sitting there shaking my head.
I mean, you're getting into the whole, you know, you got to blame the media for what those kids to them. You know, you blame the person that did it. That's who was at fault.
Exactly.
And
you want those motherfucking pearls.
I did like that they tied it into the Zorro movie, though, because that was like original, you know, Batman origin. I was just watching the Zorro, so they had Zorro the Gay Blade, and I was like, oh, cool, they got a Zorro thing in there.
And I will say, Frigginz, I feel the opposite of you with Thomas Wayne.
Okay.
At first it was very cringy, and I agree. I was an eye roll moment. Okay, Thomas Wayne, let me guess, the guy's going to be walking with a tuxedo, you know. But okay, sorry, I thought I lost you guys for a second. But
no, still here.
I mean, the whole theme of it is classes, right? The upper class doesn't give a shit about the lower class, and the lower class needs to do something to let them know that they're not going to stand by. You know, Gotham is bad and it's getting worse every day, and somebody needs to do something. And the fat cats like Thomas Wayne don't care about anybody. He's going for mayor and he's going, but you don't care about us. We need to take matters into our own hands to take our city back, which of course extremists, right? And they do the worst thing possible. But like when you think of Gotham in terms of like wealthy people, who like what is the one family that anybody can say is like the wealthy family of, or anybody wealthy in Gotham. Again, comic book fans, I'm sure you guys could like bring up like 6 or 7. Well, actually, you know, there's James, you know, Stevenson. He's a second wealthiest. I'm sure, but I don't know. It just, to me, it makes sense that they use Thomas as the figurehead as to why everybody is so angry. He didn't do anything directly, but again, let's blame him because he's wealthy and we're not. I don't know. I'm soapbox. I'm gonna get down for a second.
Well, there's so many different themes. I mean, you know, Don, you said you saw it thinking of like picking on the bully, right? Like I saw it differently. Like I didn't not picking on the bully, but bullying, picking on the underdog. I saw it kind of different. You know, I thought of it more as like a think. Of course, I thought of it more of like a think piece where we're actually focusing on. You know, because in our society, we're dealing with struggles with, mass shooting killers, serial killers, and all those kinds of things. And this, to me, it was kind of like looking at it and seeing. I almost thought of it as like seeing the origin of like Jeffrey Dahmer or something. Like this is more about seeing what led a person to become this evil thing, right? But it's not. But it's not necessarily the bullying. Like he had issues from the abuse he suffered as a child, right? And so then he's going through trying to get the treatment assistance through there, and he had talked about having all these horrible thoughts and always having bad, evil thoughts and that kind of thing. And all of this started happening like when he stopped taking the medication, and again, it was the society, like what Peeps was saying, where you know they were doing cutbacks. We had the garbage strike and all that kind of thing. But like when he stopped taking meds, he starts saying, I feel better, because he's giving in to those dark thoughts on the inside. And that's why you're feeling better, is because you're giving in to those things and gaining what you perceive as, people seeing you. And, you know.
Actually, Frig,
No.
If you recall, he killed the 3 gentlemen before he was off of the medication, and he informed his doctor that I finally feel that I am being noticed, and he was actually still on the medication at that time.
But I'm saying it's the progression of it. Like he's finally giving in.
The progression of the bullying that led him to then losing his mind.
But like Pete said, it's the other dude's fault that he, killed Thomas Wayne. Those were that person's choices. This is his choices to go down this route. It was his choice because when he was bullied on the train, and he sees himself as the hero of that scenario. And then that leads him to go the next step, and then that leads him to get off the meds, and then he feels like things are finally making sense in his life because he's giving in to those evil feelings that are on the inside. And that's what is his rationale for making all these horrible things and killing people. And that dude deserved to die. The other clown deserved to die because he gave him a gun and he lied about it, like he was covering his ass. So that means he gets to be killed for that. Like, I just don't understand how it's not all about the bullying. It's also, I mean, that's a factor, but I feel like it's just that, I
mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it for a character like this, but I mean, I really do feel a majority of it is about the bullying, though. I mean, this is a dude that had a disorder. He was very nervous. He always had that tick, and he was just an awkward dude to be around, and he was bullied his entire life. And for somebody that's in his mid-40s, it became to a point where, what would have happened if he had never been given that gun, that day? I mean, that's where it kind of shifted for him, and he started carrying it around just to kind of protect himself. And then, yes, he felt a relief when he finally shot those guys, and he felt like he got some revenge, but that was because of all the years of being bullied and picked on. I mean, we see it from the second the movie starts with him getting the sign taken away from him, getting it smashed over his head, and everybody kicking him while he's down, and then the Wall Street guys kicking him while he's down, and just, the other clown guy that gave him the gun turning his back on him, getting him in trouble at work. Like, it was just nonstop bullying the entire movie that led to him just finally losing his shit, which is something we see on the news all the time, that it was like, oh, it was the kid, the real quiet kid in school that everybody picked on, and then finally one day he went in with his machine gun and fucking shot everybody because he was tired of it, and that was the way for him to feel better. And that's exactly what happened here. Was he started to feel better once he started killing people. It let him release those regressions.
And if you remember too, I mean, that's when he first had that fantasy, I guess. Like, remember, like, he killed those dudes and then he went straight home and then went into that chick's house, right? Like, he was just on cloud 9. Yes, it didn't actually happen, but in his mind, like, he was
the
just
man at that point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he gets out the medications, and those grow to the point where he thinks that a person is with him on the street, is with him at dinner, is with him at his comedy place, is with him at his mom by his side while his mom's in the hospital. Like, it's only exacerbating worse after the fact that he's not taking care of the things. Now, again, the part of the film was the fact that, society's pulling away the assistants and things to that nature. But that's why the DOJ sends out a message, because it's trying to, what they want to be clear is this movie is not saying it's okay to go shoot people if you're bullied. Like, there's other ways around it. Yeah. But that's the worry that
stab
comes
some in
from
the neck,
stuff.
right?
And that's what stab him in the eyeball with a pair of scissors. That's what I'm afraid of with, those type of individuals who need help are seeing this kind of thing, and they're going to get that kind of reaction out of it. I want them to get more help. You know what I mean? And like, it's just, and I know it's a movie and I'm kind of like pulling it into real life, but I just really, that was the realism for me, is seeing that it's an individual who's struggling with mental health issues, not getting the help that they have, and how that road can go to a point to get them to commit atrocious crimes. But the important part is they're not a hero. They're just the hero of their own story, if that makes sense. I mean, they're coming up with excuses to say that it's okay that I did this, and I wouldn't have done this if all these people didn't do X, Y, and Z. But just like you said, Peeps, with that guy that shot the Waynes, like, that person made those choices to do that, so it's that person's fault. And this is his fault because he's still making those choices, even though he's been, like, bullied along the entire way.
So going back to the end of the movie, so I actually thought it was going to end when he was on top of the police car, and we were kind of leave it there. But then we see he does get arrested again. He's back in jail, and he's obviously in a mental asylum at that point. I was hoping it would show a nice shot of Arkham on the outside again as it kind of pulled away. But we see him talking to his new therapist and everything, and then I love it because he comes out the room, and as he's walking down the hallway, you see the blood footprints under his shoes.
Yeah.
And then he's just running around, and the other guards are chasing him and shit. And the movie does
Very
a very
Scooby-Doo style.
very Scooby-Doo, just kind of that's all,
That
folks,
was-
at the end,
that
and
was
I'm
good.
like, what the fuck? but
Right?
but it's cool because you see at the end he is now truly the Joker, and he's just doing his Joker shit at this point. He gives no Fs. He's gonna kill whoever the hell he wants to kill. Nobody's gonna tell him anything different. But like I said, man, those final 15-20 minutes for me is really what took this movie over the top. I mean, it's a slow burn throughout, and you're kind of following the story, and then just, man, the payoff is what takes you there, and just incredible.
Yeah.
Peeps, just kind of anything else, any other overview or moments or anything that's kind of stuck with you, kind of, coming out of it now that we've had a couple days to marinate.
Yeah, man. So I guess the little pieces I like to call out, and Frigginz and I, we actually had a short little conversation about this, but his quote unquote girlfriend,
Domino.
Zazie Domino, yeah.
Domino, yeah.
Zazie Beats.
Yeah, man, like that moment when he goes into her room and he's just sitting there and she's just like, hello, hello, and like I'm with you, DX. I did not think that he was hallucinating with her, because you would think, why would a normal person hang out with him? But if that moment when he said she came up to his house and said, hey, were you
Yeah.
following me?
Right.
And he said, yes, I was. And she was like, all right, that's cool,
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought to myself, anybody that says that they're okay with you stalking me all day is not right in the head. So she has her own issues that she's also dealing with. So, okay, fine. She's crazy. He's crazy. And I will say, I thought in my head, since this is a brand new origin story, I thought maybe this is going to be his Harley. This is going to be a
Right.
chick that has gone down this path with him, and she's just with him the whole way. And
Totally
it's
what I
not the
thought.
same. It's not the same story, but like I kind of thought it would have been pretty interesting if once he starts taking it to the next level, she's still okay with it, and she's also not right in the head, and she loses her daughter, brings her. Anyways, that's my what if. That didn't happen. So, but
I was with you, man. I was with you.
the question is, like, did he kill her? They left that open to interpretation. I actually don't feel they did. There's like 98% chance he fucking killed her. But to show him kill
I
her
don't
and a
think he
kid.
killed her.
I think he killed her.
Oh,
Do you
I
really?
think he killed her.
I do too,
100%
man.
I think she's dead, man.
Wow. I never in a million years had that fucking thought that he killed her.
Oh, yeah. Like, so specifically,
definitely.
right after he leaves her house, he goes back to his house, and then you see the police sirens in the background, and
The red lights.
yeah, and I just think, wow, like something happened to her, and that the police were called, and obviously, they didn't see him do it. I mean, with him coming into her house like that, I feel like she would have called the cops on him immediately. And then one could also say, well, that's why the cops came.
That's why the cops
after
came.
him.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
Or did the cops come after him
He left
because
her
the
apartment.
little guy, the little person, told? You know what I mean? Like, they left it open, and I love that.
I
They
don't
did
know,
that
because
enough.
it's just like how he didn't kill the little midget dude. Why would he kill her? Like, he really liked her. He loved her, obviously. So, like,
Yeah.
I don't see why. Like, he was killing and hurting the people that were messing with him.
Yeah.
So that's why I never really thought that he would hurt her.
So I thought about this, and the reason is because, again, he's been at this point kind of like losing himself, and he has this type of God complex. So when she did the fingers to the head move, he probably thought, hey, this is her telling me that she wants to die, and right now I'm really fucking stressed out. I just killed my mom, and I came home, and I'm like, he needs some more stress release, and she wants to die, finger to the head, and I'm going to help you out. I don't know.
The other thing is that he's all worked up about nobody seeing him, right? So, like, in his head, he created a scenario where this woman sees him and is with him and is being with him, and now he's sitting there in the room, and she's like, why are you here? Why are you here? Like, that's the realization that she doesn't see him, and that's also part of the reason why I think like Peeps that she got killed. Because then I'm breaking it down too, like, well, what happens next? Like, if a dude is in your house and you leave, like, you're gonna call the cops. And that was at night, and then he doesn't
she knows
kill
exactly
the dude.
who he was.
Yeah, she knows who he was, where he was. Like, the detectives don't show up until the next morning. So they got through the whole night there. So I'm thinking, like, I think she's dead. Like, I think she's dead. The cops show up, or ambulance, or whoever it was. They go in there. They're dealing with her. They haven't connected it to him yet until, like, the next morning when the detectives come in. They're like, hey, there's this person got killed at this apartment. And they're like, what apartment? And they're like, oh, this apartment. And he's like, oh, that's where Fleck is. Let's go see him. And then they go after him. Like, that's how I put it together in my head.
It was in the web episode. You probably missed it, Don. No, but so
they must have said something on Instagram. Fred caught it over here.
Yeah.
Caught it on the gram.
I do like that they left a lot open, and that's kind of where I was getting at. They left that scene open. Frigginz, it sounds like you have it pinned down to to the specific moment as to when he went crazy, but like I feel like they didn't really answer that question for me. Is it because of his head trauma that he had as a kid? Is it because of his like mommy issues? Is it because of what has been transpiring, as an adult? Is it because he is off of his meds? Like, why is he doing this now? And this laugh that he has, is that a psychological thing, or is that just something he does to make himself feel like there is no actual explanation? Yes, he has a card, but I'm sorry, I need a doctor to tell me
that bitch on the bus did not give him back his card. That pissed me off.
I know, right?
I was like, how rude, man. After she yelled at him for making his son laugh, she did not return his little laminated nice card.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
I actually noticed that because he didn't give it to anybody else after that. So, yeah, man. I don't know. Go ahead, Frigginz.
I was just gonna say, to answer your question, I think it's a combination of all of it. And I did look up some information on the laughing disorder because I was curious if that's like a real thing.
It is.
And it is a real thing.
I looked it up too. Yep.
It's like pseudo-bulbar effect, PBA or something like that. Like I thought that was really interesting that they pulled something that was real.
Yeah, I know Joaquin Phoenix studied that. He went and looked up some people and worked with some people that had it, and that was kind of the inspiration of where they came up with the laugh and everything.
That's
it's
cool.
It's just when I first, like you said, DX, I am right there with you, my man. When you said you first saw him laughing, just kind of eye rolling and what's going on, and it just kept going and going and going. And I'm just like, I was waiting for her to say, okay, now how do you feel? Like, doesn't that feel better or something? And that didn't happen.
Or
but
cut that shit out because you didn't know why he was doing it. I'm like, okay, enough. Jesus.
Yeah. But it's fun to see in the future him and Batman fighting, and he's doing that crazy maniacal laugh, and it's because of his disorder. I don't know. No one's talking, so I'll go ahead and take the next one. I was thinking throughout the movie, how the hell is this guy supposed to be a match for Batman?
Yeah, serious.
And I do like DX was he posed the question when he in the opening, where they're going to go from here. Are they going to add him into the universe? Could he, could we potentially see him return? And I really, 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 really hope that we do not, because I just, you just quit while you're ahead. You know what I mean? I don't want to see them mess it up. And I feel like they're going to mess it up if they try to put him back, or if they try to pin him against Batman, or bring him back in a Legion of Doom movie or something like that. So I just really hope they just kind of leave this alone. Amazing movie. I enjoy the shit out of it, but I just don't want to see him come back for the fear of them fucking it up.
Well, I was thinking about that too, and I think that personally, I don't want to see the Batman versus Joker in this like real life setting because it's too real. I think it would be too toned down for what we want to see when we want to see a Batman movie. Like, we want to see him swinging through the.
You saw it was the Dark Knight, right?
Well,
no, but this Batman's going to be driving like a.
Real.
Yeah, he's gonna be driving like a black Mustang,
There
and
you go.
he's
No
literally
cape.
just running around. There's
But
no
that's my
grappling hook.
point. Is
Got a
like
gun.
it would be too real that I think it would take away from what Batman's actually all about, and I don't want to see that
I don't know, man.
unless
They got super rats, Friggins. They got
it's
super
true.
rats.
They could fight. He could be over there stomping on super rats the whole time. But the one interesting thing I kind of I thought about this more as we talked about it, and like, do we want to see this as a Batman movie? And if it goes Batman movie, I think you then break it down and go a real version of what kind of mental disorders does Batman have? Because like the dude saw his parents murdered in front of him and he's instantly orphaned, and then what does he go through after that? And then he's deranged enough to wear a suit to look like a freaking bat and go out every single night and beat up people half to death. So that's also a person who's not all there and who probably needs different kind of help. So that could be interesting, maybe, and seeing a different take on Batman. Or, of course, you could break down and go through the whole list of Batman villains who would be interesting to see, on this kind of realistic vibe. But that's the only way I think you could do it. But personally, I don't want to see him fight Batman.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. One of the things I wanted to get into, kind of along the lines of this, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, is kind of when they made this movie, and like I said, when the news first came out and everything, this was always intended as a one and done. This was not supposed to be a movie that would be sequelized. This was not a movie that was going to lead into anything. This was a one and done. Like I said, it was an Elseworld situation of what would happen if the Joker came to be in this kind of a world, in this kind of a situation. So of course, movie comes out, right? Makes a ton of money over the weekend. Number one movie in the world. Cleaning up at the box office. Joaquin Phoenix only signed a one-picture deal. This was, like I said, it was a one and done. It was always intended to be this and nothing more. I saw about 2 weeks ago the director Todd Phillips starting to be like, hey, I loved working with Joaquin, and if we come up with a good idea, we'd love to, maybe touch this world again, but we'll see where it goes. And I'm like, okay, well, that's typically what a director would say. But there's no way that Joaquin's going to want to do this, right? Because he's so picky about the roles he picks, and he doesn't do sequels, and he's just this, like I said, he does all these artsy-fartsy kind of movies. Like, this is just, don't worry, it's not going to happen. And then saw an article with Joaquin this morning, and it is a very big possibility that there might be a sequel to this movie. As Joaquin Phoenix has stated that when he signed on to this movie, he never thought it would be much of a role, let alone a role of a lifetime. But he said that lately he can't stop thinking about it, and that he loved playing this character, and he loved making this movie and working with Todd Phillips, and that he would be open to reprising this role and doing another film. So I'm like, shit, because now that he's saying that, and the director's been saying that, and the fact that this movie has already made like $250 million in like a week, leads me to believe that we might be seeing a sequel to Joker. Now, I know you guys have both basically just said you don't want to see him fighting Batman. So do we just continue for another movie, like literally taking place right after? Like, do we just see the escape from Arkham and his escapades killing people? Or like, where do we really go for a sequel then if we stay out of the Batman world? Thoughts there?
Well, I'll go ahead and take it, Friggins, unless you got something already.
I'm still thinking. That's a tough question.
Yeah, no, that definitely is a good question. So, I said I don't want it to happen, but they just came up to me and said, hey, Peeps, we need you to make this happen. So make it happen. All right, cool. All right, let me make this shit happen. All right. Let's see. So, I say that we, this movie, they kind of took a lot of, influence from, the Batman, The Killing Joke. And, I don't know, like, I don't want to mess up this grounded vibe that they have, but I mean, I'm gonna go full left and dude, like portals start opening up and shit, and then they take him into the multiverse, and we see Jack Nicholson, and I almost said Heath Ledger. God damn it!
Oh,
But
you messed that up.
I don't know, man.
Jared Leto.
Right. I don't think I don't know how they could even follow up with this. To be honest, like, how do you follow up with such like a film like this without, again, trying to bring back everybody that they did to create the first one, and just, like having lightning hit twice. Like,
it just makes it very hard because it's a totally different movie. I mean, we saw the journey in this film. Now he's just a stone cold killer. So how do you really do a whole movie just based on him being out there as this killer with no vigilante or nobody to kind of balance him out? Is it just the cops chasing him for 90 minutes? I mean, I don't know. I don't see where the hell it would go.
The only thing I can think of, since Peeps, you were stumbling over there, I'll pick you up. With your portals.
Kiss my ass.
I was thinking that the only thing I could think of is because we've got to keep it real, because that's the whole big thing about this movie is the realism.
you don't want it to go wrong.
Yeah, so I think you focus more on Harley Quinn coming in as the doctor that's starting to interview him, and like her, one of the backstories they give Harley Quinn is she. So
you want two Jokers and two Harleys?
You might as well. I mean, if the two most popular people outside of Batman and Robin, I mean,
Harley
that's
freaking Quinn.
But if you see her descent and her, descent into chaos and falling into him, Squad. She got thrown in a vat.
Hey, but I saw her electrocuted and all kinds of shit in that movie.
So I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. But again, I'm like we said, I wouldn't want that.
So okay, how about this? So he didn't kill Domino. She is still alive, and everything that I said before starts to transpire in the sequel.
She's
like,
Harley Quinn.
How dare you, this, that, and the third. But that shit was kind of hot, and your shoulders and your skinny bones are actually kind of. I think I'm kind of feeling it now. I don't know. Yeah, man. I guess I think I probably would like to. I could potentially see, Joker, like, it kind of going back and forth. Like, you need a protagonist, you need an antagonist. Like, I don't think they can do another just Joker movie. It would probably be nice to see, but it sucks right now, right? Because we're already going to see an early Batman movie. So now another early Batman, you know what I mean? Like, oh God, that sucks.
It's just confusing everything. And the hard part is they tied this to like events that were real. So I feel like they'd have to tie it to events that were real to keep that same vibe going. Because when you look at Gotham City's garbage strike, was essentially in the 80s there was a what's the term? A sanitation strike. So it was the same thing. It was and Gotham is New York. They filmed like in New York and New Jersey and stuff like that.
I always thought Gotham was Chicago.
Well, that's where it was, like with the Dark Knight series. They filmed.
In my head, it was just based on Chicago. I don't know, but I got you.
Well, they went with the New York vibe for this one, and like the garbage strike was based on a real event, and then the shooting in the train, that was actually based off of a real event as well. I think it was like in '84 or '85 or something. There was a guy who shot some people on the train, and that was a weird situation as well. So, but like I feel like if you're gonna do another, you're gonna have to find some way to tie it into what are you going to do, like the 90s or something, and to tie into events that occurred in that time frame. And you got to keep the real tone. I mean, that's the biggest trick if you're going to make another. You got to keep it real.
Got to keep it real, man.
We can bring in Lex Luthor. He comes and visits him at the.
I'm hearing rumors that Lex Luthor's solo movie is the next one on the docket.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Now we got to do all the villain origins, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm face palming it right now, but then it comes out.
Right.
And
then we have
so
a show. Amazing.
That's a show. This was out. I thought they were going to end with Joker, but no, this Lex Luthor all the way.
Well, Don, before you wrap up, I definitely wanted to highlight one last thing, and that is just the actual production of this film. And I mean, if you want to see how a film is made well with like camera angles and music, the score.
Watch The Fifth Element.
Oh my God.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. No, this though. I mean, if you think about it, like I felt so claustrophobic watching this film, and it created this environment of feeling like you're stuck in the apartment with him. I mean, every shot was tight. Look, when you go back and you watch it
I saw it in IMAX.
Look at the angles and the shots. Like, there, when you're going in on the train, everything's getting small, and that train's just leading in with no exit into this creepy city that's Gotham. And then when you're in there, you're in these small apartments. You're in that stairway. That stairway is long, but it's small. It's not wide. You have to go, up this huge area to get to wherever he's got to go. They're in this small subway. They're in the small train. The lights are flashing out. There's garbage. The garbage, like, literally piled higher and higher as the movie went on. Like, when it started, there's a little bit. Towards the end, it was just these huge mountains of garbage in the background. And I just loved that vibe that they kept getting, and like, everything shrinking and the garbage growing and the situation getting worse. And I feel like that helped build all of the emotional experience that we all had with the dark and depressing vibes, and, like, just feeling terrible as you're watching this movie, because it was so well done and the music was perfectly executed. I mean, they had the right tones, the right time to have the happy-go-lucky music, and the right time to have the dark, ominous tones. It was just fantastically put together.
Yes, it very much was. One of the things I wanted to kind of bring up, talking about the differences between us sometimes, is like, one of the funny things is when Frigginz posted his 5 million page review on Instagram, he
it got peeps to go.
He got peeps to go based on the cacao message, not fucking Instagram.
I didn't want to say that, Frigginz, but that's what got.
You gotta stop with the Instagram. You even posted a fucking questionnaire being like, should I do more Instagram post or video? And everybody's like, video, motherfucker. This ain't fucking 1982. Fucking writing your little novels and shit. But I know when Frigginz wrote his post, he said, like, great movie, 5 out of 5 stars, but I never want to see it again. And I went and saw it, and I was like, man, it was great. And I wanted to go back that very same weekend. I was trying to get my wife to go, because I was like, hey, I want to see this movie again. You want to go watch it? And she's like, nah, I'm good. But I can't wait to see it again, because I feel like this is a movie that I want to go through again. I want to see what I pick up on the second go around. I feel like I missed a lot of shit. I want to see if I interpret things in a different way, knowing how it pans out. Different things, like how we just talked about, like, I think she's alive, you guys think that he killed her. Maybe if I watch that scene in a different light again, who knows what I think. Like, I want to see it again with fresh eyes, and I can't wait to see it again. So, like, Peeps, what's your opinion on that kind of take? And then after you give yours, I want to know from you, Frigginz, like, why would you come out of it being like, great, 5 out of 5, but I never want to see it again?
Cool.
That's good question. And I will say that as I was watching it, and I kind of messaged you guys a few times, I felt uncomfortable, and even after the credits were rolling, I think I needed a shower. The whole experience was pretty raw, to be honest. But I will say that there's one thing that I do enjoy, and that is sharing movies with other people. I have a few friends that enjoy movies just as much as I do. I really want to take them to the movies to get that fresh experience from them, to see if they have the same reactions that I do, to see if they even feel about the movie the same way that I do. And exactly like you said, DX, Frigginz, I'll say, I don't think I noticed garbage piling up throughout the whole movie. I thought it was just the same.
I need to see it again for the Super Rats.
Look for the Super Rats.
So, and not just that, but also, like, when I started watching the movie, I just wanted it. I just wanted to get there. Where's this going? Where is this going? Where is this? Oh shit, that's where they're going. Maybe they're going to go left, and you're just waiting. And then now that I know what the payoff is, now that I know how it ends, I'm very curious to go through it again, and I feel like I'm going to have a different journey this time, already knowing where it's going to end and what ends up happening, and the hallucinations. I'm probably going to have even a few more theories as to, maybe his mother never existed, and the lady he went with at the hospital was somebody else. I don't freaking know, but it was very fun and artistic, and I really do want to check it out again. So yes, sorry, Frigginz. I think you're absolutely wrong and the worst. But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Mike.
Wow.
All right, Frigginz, let's hear your dumbass fucking reason why you don't want to see it again.
Well, okay, so going through that experience was so dark and depressing for me. Like, they did such a good job of creating the environment and making me feel like I was sitting in his apartment with him that I almost had the experience of kind of going through those things along with him. And that's not a feeling.
Do I need to keep an eye on you, Frigginz?
No.
Are you talking about yourself this whole time?
You better take your meds, motherfucker.
You can call me Don. When you post this, can you call me the Joker?
Yeah.
No.
But no, in all seriousness, it was just super dark and super creepy, and I felt sad like the whole time I was watching it. I was completely engrossed in the production of it that I kept thinking like, oh my god, look at that shot. Oh my god, the angle. Look at the lighting. Like, because I had to find something positive because I was so freaking sad. And I felt dirty for like going along this ride. Like, I didn't want to root for him because he's this evil person, but at the same time, like you said, there's the bullying aspect. So it's kind of like, well, that kind of sucks. But like at the same time, he shouldn't be killing people. It was just this strange back and forth of not knowing what to feel. And again, I think that's the point of the film. And if you tag a title of something called Joker and you're putting it under DC banner, like, I think there's certain things that are expected. I think I would have maybe even liked it even more if it was not called the Joker and you threw out all the Batman stuff and just had this experience of this particular character. But I didn't feel like I got actual Joker until the very, very, very end. And again, this is an origin story, so that's what happens in origin stories. So I realized that. But like when he was dancing on the stairs, I was like, finally, now I got a Joker, and I don't have just this crazy deranged serial killer. And that scene in the Murray Franklin show, like where he's on stage and he was like owning it, and he was being the Joker in that moment, and that's what, you know, I was kind of, I guess, wanting more of that, so it wasn't as real and dark. So I give it a 5-star because of how amazing it was. When you look at the acting, you look at the cinematography, you look at the score, you look at the plot, the story, the writing, everything was phenomenal. But after going through that, I felt a certain way, and I did not enjoy watching that movie. Like, it was good, but it's not like when I watched Avengers where I just had all this joy and this like positive emotion. It was just a negative emotion, and I just don't really want to go through that again. I don't know.
Interesting.
If you'll indulge me, Josh Brolin, did you see his post about the Joker? I thought it was phenomenal.
No.
And really well said. And if it's cool, I'd like to read it real quick. It's kind of long, but I'll go.
Does it say I am inevitable?
Yeah. But he says, to appreciate Joker, I believe you have to either gone through something traumatic in your life, and I believe most of us have, or understand somewhere in your psyche what true compassion is, which usually comes from having gone through something traumatic, unfortunately. An example of dangerous compassion would be to say, make a film made about the fragility of human psyche and make it so raw, so brutal, so balletic, that by the time you leave the theater, you not only don't want to hurt anything, but you desperately want an answer and solution to the violence and mental health issues that have spun out of control around us. This film makes you hurt, and only in pain do we ever want to change. It's all the irony of trauma, a fine line between the resentment of wanting to hurt society back for raping you of decent life, for not protecting you, and accepting what feels like alien feelings with softening to those others who seem freakish in our area of judgment and digital damnation. Like kids in middle school, they can just be mean for no reason, and sometimes those awful little cliquey kids breed an evil in someone that rages much later, when everyone pretends we're all back to normal, when we all thought it had just manned up and gone away. We have a habit of hating and ostracizing and dividing and sweeping our problems under the rug. Joker is simply lifting the rug and looking underneath it. Nothing more, nothing less. It's there.
Just like Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison. Thank God I called that guy.
But I read that and I thought that was just so well put. And I think
Thank you to his publicist for putting that together.
Yeah, there you go. He writes really well. But I just wanted to share that. I thought it was really good.
That was cool. I mean, it definitely summarizes it up pretty nicely, and shines a good light on it. Very interesting, man. It's cool to hear the different takes. Like I said, I can't wait to see it again. You know, and when I say see it again, like, I'm not saying this movie's super rewatchable. Like, this isn't a movie that like you compared it to Avengers. You know, it's something that I could be bored on a lazy afternoon and just be like, hey, I'm gonna throw on Avengers and watch the final battle or something. Like, with Joker, that's not something I'm gonna do super often. But I think theatrically, I want to sit through it again, just to, like I said, to have those fresh set of eyes and seeing. It's always cool with a movie like this. Like I said, once you see how it plays out, to kind of watch it back and see the clues and pick up on different things that you didn't see the first time. And that's always the kind of the fun moments, especially knowing now that a lot of that stuff were visions in his head and different things like that, like, do I see things in a different light that second go around? Very, very interesting, man. This movie is not for everybody, I mean, it's about a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's fresh, but, it's 75%, which means, there's still a good handful of people out of this that were like, nah, I'm good, and didn't care for it. But box office wise, this movie is cleaning up. It is the largest October opening of all time, actually beating the record that Venom made last year. It was suggested that it made $93 million over the weekend. When the final numbers hit, it actually made $96, so it was $3 million over the projection, making $96 million here in the States. It made another $140 million or so overseas. And so far, right to the recording of this show, the movie has already made $272 million worldwide. So 119 here in the U.S. and 152 foreign. So 272 worldwide, which is phenomenal. The production budget is not listed on this movie, but I'm telling you, they made this film for like 50 or 60 mil. This movie was cheap. Because that is the only way that you get away with doing the things they did and doing it in an R-rated setting, is to minimize the risk. And that's exactly why they were able to make the first Deadpool movie, because they made it for like $60 million, and same thing, Logan was made for a very cheap budget. That's how you get away with these R-rated comic book films, and that's what happened here. I'm telling you, this movie was made for around 50-60 million, and it's already made almost 300 million. So I'm telling you, the idea of sequel is very, very heavy. We'll see where it goes. We know that they're going to start making the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson here soon, directed by Matt Reeves. And who knows? I don't think he'll jump into Joker right out the gate, but there might be some talks a little bit down the road, and you never know if we might see Joaquin Phoenix pop up in a sequel to the Batman, being that it is an earlier Batman in his career once again in the new movies that they're doing. So timeline-wise, it could work out okay. But, I don't think it should go there either. I think, I like the idea of the one undones, the Elseworld kind of things, because it opens the door to a lot of other possibilities, like doing maybe a Red Sun Superman movie, or, some The Kingdom Come, like doing just these kind of things that your main timeline would never really get to, but maybe as a one-off kind of thing, it'd be kind of cool, so we'll see where it goes, man. But money usually talks, and that's either going to lead to a sequel or to his eventual insertion into some sort of other DC world, and we see it with the Batman. But crazy, man. It's been a hell of a ride. This was a hell of a movie, and thank you guys for jumping on. Any last thoughts? Anything else we want to get out before we wrap this baby up?
Yes. Final thoughts. I don't know if we're going to do our star ranking. I haven't mentioned mine, but I'll go and say that after some thought, I will definitely say this is a 5-star movie. Again, Frigginz, I understand, your thought process for not wanting to watch a movie. Another movie I think is really good is Birdman. But I feel like I never have to watch that movie again.
Because it wasn't that great.
I mean, you know, art is art. You know, there's different types of art. You know, whether if it's dance or paintings or film or whatever it is, like art is subjective. Everybody sees things differently. There's three of us. We all agree on some things, we disagree on some things, but I think a movie that has done what this movie has done, and that has created this much discussion and this much thought behind it, and you know, it's right there, it's in front of us, yet we are seeing different things. I don't understand how you're not seeing giant super rats, DX, but you didn't see the giant super rats, and this movie does that. It's, you know, it's dark, it's got its, you know, high points where you think it's going to be like, oh, it's going to be laughy, but it just keeps getting darker and darker, and that's a place I don't think that we really get to a lot nowadays in movies and film. It's always happy and my favorite love wedding and Avengers and I don't, this movie just it's not a comic book film. And if you're getting that comic book film burnout, this is not it. You're not going to get that comic book film feeling at all in this. Even if you have never picked up a Batman comic, you don't need to understand any of the Easter eggs or any of the nods that we've been referencing. Like, this is just a good movie by itself. And for that, like, if you haven't seen it and you've listened to us talk about this movie, there's really not a whole lot that we, you know, in terms of spoiling, to get the full effect of this movie. It's not what happens in the movie, it's just going through the experience. It's a ride. So if you haven't, I highly recommend. And that's Peeps' last thought. Mic drop.
That was good. I can't follow that up. I mean, you pretty much said everything. but
you're gonna try anyway.
I'm just gonna say that I spoke my piece. I talked about, you know, my thoughts on it, and I agree and echo what Peeps is saying. This is an experience. This is a movie, you know, that there's more than just watching a movie if you pay attention to what else is going on. And it's definitely something worth watching, because even if at the end of the day you don't really like the movie, this movie is going to be talked about forever. And I mean, people are comparing it to Martin Scorsese. They're comparing, you know, like Taxi Driver. And other things like that. So I have a feeling that this discussion of this film and what was done here is going to be talked about for a while. I fully expect to see, you know, Oscar noms, if not for Joaquin Phoenix only, maybe some other things where, you know, I don't know if he'll get a Best Picture, but it better have cinematography in there, man. I'm telling you. But it's just something that we haven't really seen in a quote unquote comic book movie. And just like you said, if you are going to this, do not expect a comic book movie. This is not that.
It's exactly something I said on my spoiler free review on my main podcast. Was just, if you're looking for that comic book movie and you're looking for the Big Bang, this is not that kind of movie. So don't go in looking for that.
Fully agree, and that's all I was going to close on. So it's back to you, Don.
Thanks. Which you just brought up the one last point I wanted to make and kind of go around real fast is Academy Awards, Oscars this year. Thoughts? Whether I'm gonna say right now, I think there's no way in hell Joaquin Phoenix does not win Best Actor for this movie. I will be shocked if he does not win. I will be really hella shocked if he doesn't even get nominated. I feel like that is the most slam dunk nomination I can pick. I see nothing less than him winning for Best Actor. I think there's a chance that that the movie could be nominated for Best Film as well. Possibly Best Director for Todd Phillips, but I'm really going out on the limb for him for Best Actor. I don't see how you can't. So I just want to see, what do you guys think it runs a chance for the Academy Award, Peeps?
Dude, yes, I definitely do. Exactly what you said when you opened up, DX, is like Joaquin Phoenix. He's been very meh for the longest time. I think the last movie that I thought he was really, really good in was Gladiator. But outside of that, he's literally just been in every other film that I've seen him in. But in this movie, he transformed. Like, this is acting on a whole new level. Like, he's not Joaquin Phoenix, you know, like Will Smith is Will Smith in fucking every movie. Like he went to a whole new level, transformed entirely, from everything from that laugh to his awkwardness to his losing all that weight for the it. He deserves, in my opinion, best actor for this film, hands down. As for other things, cinematography and music, I think that's all nice, but I'm not as much of an expert as Frigginz is, so I'll take Friggin's word for it.
Oh, please do, because the cinematography, I mean, the shots were just amazing. The colors, the lighting, everything was just phenomenal. If this thing doesn't get up there for cinematography, for score, I would even go as far as to say screenplay, the all that stuff. I could see this really be nominated for multiple things. And you guys have all covered exactly about Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, the guy's amazing. He is not the same in any role he does, and especially this one. It wasn't Joaquin Phoenix. It was Arthur Fleck, and that's, I think, the best compliment you could give to an actor. And I personally haven't seen anything that I think comes anywhere close to that performance that he gave so far. Now, that being said, Don, we still have a couple more months to go. So, there could be...
It's not going to happen.
You never know.
It's going to be all these Snorefest movies that nobody gives a fuck about.
Except for the Oscar people. People. They always pick the Snorefest one.
It's a done deal.
I'm still mad that Saving Private Ryan lost, but whatever. Yeah.
Was that recent?
Yeah, I mean, it's only been like 20 years ago. I don't know. But yeah, I'm right there with you, Don. I think this could, I mean, if nothing else, he should be up for Best Actor for sure.
Which would be crazy that would be two people winning an Oscar for playing
the
Joker. I mean, how nuts is that? So, very, very crazy. Well, that'll do it, guys, for our hour and a half plus conversation about Joker. The spoiler review, Am I Still in the Air? In the books, great conversation, a different type of spoiler review, but very fun film to dissect on through. And like we said, man, if maybe you were on the fence about watching it and you're listening to this podcast just to kind of get an inside feel, go check it out for yourself, man. I mean, everybody's going to interpret this film in a different way, and I think you should just see it for yourself and see what you end up getting out of it. So I think we all think it's worth, seeing it in the theater. I know both these guys, like they said, they gave 5 stars. I actually gave 4.5 for this one. I did not go 5 on this. I feel it was a tad slow in the beginning. I would have maybe moved some things around, but the second half, just phenomenal. So I'm just going to come in slightly underneath it. But yes, great movie there on that end. So thank you to my boys, Peeps and Frigginz, for joining. Definitely check them out on Twitter. Peeps is at For My Peoples, and Frigginz, of course, Frigginz with a Z at the end. And you can always follow him on Instagram as well and see his big, long, drawn-out posts.
Whoa. Okay.
All you got to do is hold the button, and you can read it. Just hold the button.
It's a pain in the ass. Or you could just watch the review on Stardust, and you could do spoiler and non-spoiler reviews on Stardust. Record a nice 30-second video, and you'll see it. So you can follow all of us on Stardust, but I'm the only one that posts videos on there a lot, so check me out at DONMEGA. So I hope these guys would get on board with it, because they should be doing reviews on Stardust as well. But thank you guys for joining and talking some Joker with me.
Thanks for having
us, DX.
Of course, anytime. And that'll do it once again for tonight's Am I Still on the Air? The Joker spoiler review. So if you gotta go with a smile. Peace.